Minecraft isn't and has never really been an overly difficult game. Sure, there's plenty of ways to die and lose all your stuff, but it's not typically a constant thing for most players. You're not dying 10 times a night to zombies and skeletons that one-tap you. If you do end up dying to mobs, they're usually all gone by the time you get back to your death point anyway. With that being said though, it's not like the game hasn't been getting a bit easier over the years. In fact, I'd say that it's actually been getting a bit too easy. Am I a bit biased by my own experience with Minecraft and the fact that I've been playing the game for 14 years? Yeah, of course, but at the same time, game mechanics and changes to those mechanics and other things are not a product of me and my bias. That's just the raw erasure of difficulty, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. Over the past however many years at this point, it seems like Mojang has had this weird obsession with basically erasing the difficulty from this game. Changes to mechanics, very strong loot pools, stronger early game gear. I mean, I can't be the only one seeing this, right? To really grasp the slow decline of Minecraft's difficulty though, I want to take you through a detailed but still relatively short history of the decline in chronological order. That way you can really see how everything has kind of come together over the years and really beat the difficulty out of the game. Starting with the first big difficulty nerf in the game's history, Minecraft Beta 1.8 changed the game in a lot of ways, but no change was more apparent than the introduction of the hunger bar and alongside it the ability to sprint. Sprinting would allow the player to move 30% faster than regular walking at the cost of consuming hunger points from the newly added hunger bar. This was an obvious attempt to balance it, and on paper it makes sense, but in practice it doesn't really do much. The thing is though, the fastest way to move on foot wasn't actually just by sprinting. You see, when you're sprinting and you jump, the game applies a small burst of momentum, allowing you to jump further. Again, this makes sense on paper, but in practice, it was exploited to gain an additional 26% speed boost on top of the 30% that sprinting already gave you. That's right, sprint jumping was the true fastest way to move, being 56% faster than walking, and it's actually still the fastest way to move on foot to this day. Now, the thing is, this actually wouldn't have been that big of an issue if all the mobs were tweaked just a bit to account for the fact that the players could now sprint. The fact that I'm talking about this right now though should probably tell you that no, that never ended up happening. Mob AI was left exactly the same, meaning that players could now simply sprint jump away from any and all conflict. The balancing factor with the hunger bar though simply doesn't work at all in these situations. It's designed to stop you from sprinting continuously for a long time. In short bursts though, it's completely ineffective, which is exactly the way you'd be using it when running outside of a mob's detection radius. Sprinting without the proper balancing decisions became the game's first real get-out-of-jail-free card, a very powerful mechanic with next to no downsides. For the next 5 years though, the game actually did quite well with difficulty. It added new ways to get loot in 1.3 with trading and structures, which were actually fair and appropriately tuned for the frequency of finding them. It added a new boss in 1.4, the Wither, and made caves a lot less dense and sprawling in 1.7. Not that we don't love our old expansive and connecting caves. RIP 1.0 to 1.6 caves. You will be missed. Of course, at some point the streak would have to end, and boy did it ever in 2016. 1.9, the combat update. The single-handedly most infamous and divisive Minecraft update ever. Period. This update completely changed the combat of Minecraft, requiring players to time their attacks now instead of simply clicking repeatedly thanks to the new attack cooldown. With this update though came a few new mechanics that really didn't do the game's difficulty any favors. For starters, all axes were now changed to do significantly more damage than their tier swords at the cost of a slower attack speed. This wasn't really a downside though, as now a critical hit from a stone axe was capable of dealing 13.5 damage. Keep in mind that most common mobs had no more than 20 health, with a few exceptions like Endermen who have 40. 1.9 also added the shield, a new item that allowed you to block damage by holding right click, similar to the old blocking mechanic with swords. Shields, however, weren't actually that powerful. Yet. We'll get to that part later. But upon their introduction, shields block 66% of melee damage and 100% of range damage, making it a pretty good upgrade from the sword blocking of yesteryear. These two examples though were only minor nerfs on difficulty though. The biggest nerf to difficulty in this update was the reworked healing system. Prior to 1.9, you'd passively heal about half a heart every 4 seconds until your hunger bar dropped to 6 points. With this update though, healing was completely changed to be based on saturation, an invisible stat that's part of the hunger system. Saturation is basically a hunger bar for your hunger bar. It's depleted in the same way you deplete hunger, just kind of doing stuff, and once it's gone, you'll start to lose hunger. Each food, on top of its hunger restoration value, also restores an amount of saturation, with some of the best foods being meat and golden carrots because of their high values in both stats. How the new healing system worked though is that essentially one saturation point is equivalent to half a heart of health. You also heal extremely fast now, meaning that your health comes back much quicker than before. It gets even worse though when you consider the impact this had on mob encounters. If you simply simply have cooked meat, it is very hard to die at night. And here's why. Under this new system, if you've taken some damage, your saturation will be depleted quickly, converting to health. Once it's gone though, the sprint jumping you've been doing to get away will quickly take away one hunger point, allowing you to eat a high saturation food and heal a large amount of health again. And this loops over and over again. This is why I say it's hard to die at night, because you basically have to be purposely trying not to heal. Oh well, at least caves are still the tight spaces where you can't just run away and actually have to fight the mobs. Oh, shields block 100% of all damage now in 1.11. Now I can just tank a creeper explosion and kill all the mobs around it with no worry, or huddle myself in a corner while shielding to make a slow and calculated decision on what to do. There's also this new item that lets you cheat death if you're holding it, but you can just hold it in your offhand the entire time and mindlessly throw yourself in stupid situations and be perfectly fine. Well, at least they're extremely rare, only being found a few times in structures that spawn tens of thousands of blocks away from spawn. Oh, come on! Yeah, it just keeps getting worse from here. 1.16 adds netherite, which for some reason is stronger than diamond despite base mob stats still not being adjusted. 1.17 and 1.18 add giant caves, removing that tight, cramped environment that forced you to fight instead of run. And now, 1.21.9 added copper tools and armor, which makes it even easier to survive the already pushover base mobs, which, need I remind you, still have not had their stats adjusted for anything. And that's just talking about new mechanics and generation changes. That doesn't account for all the various structures added too. 1.13 brought shipwrecks, which can deadass give you a full set of iron armor's worth of ingots, diamonds, and a map that leads to more iron and diamonds, allowing you to get a diamond tool within minutes of starting a new world. 1.16 added bastions to Nether, which at first were very easy to take on and get some insane loot from, but were toughened up a bit with 1.16.2 when they added piglin brutes, an actually difficult mob that requires some level of intelligence to fight. 1.19 added the ancient city, which sounds like a pretty difficult structure at first, but then you realize that you can just run out of the warden's detection range in the time that it takes for it to even spawn in, allowing you to observe the very exposed deep slate layer cave walls for tons of diamonds. Do you see what I'm getting at here now? Does it make sense? Small changes over the years have compacted on top of one another to dull the game's difficulty down to a shadow of what it once was, which, remember, wasn't even a lot to begin with. Yes, Minecraft is a sandbox game, I understand that, but Minecraft is also mainly a survival sandbox game, meaning that the game has to have some level of difficulty to it. Creative mode is there for people who just want the sandbox element, and there's even peaceful mode for the people who like the resource gathering part of survival mode. So I don't understand why Mojang continues to erase the difficulty from this game. Copper tools and armor are the prime and most recent example that I can pull from. These didn't need to exist. I can understand the reasons for their existence, and I can understand why some people would want them, but at the end of the day, they didn't need to exist because they're redundant. There is no difficulty spike for them to tame, and there is no significant enough stat boost that can be given to even warrant a tier between stone and iron. If you want my full thoughts on those though, go watch my video about that. Listen, I'm sorry for ragging on and on about this because it's not going to be like my other videos where I propose a solution for it. That's because there is no solution to it other than stopping these kinds of things from being added in the future. Whatever happened to actually having to play the game to get stuff, actually having to develop skill to get good loot? You can say you don't understand the less experienced players all you want, but the truth is that the gameplay where you have to scour the small tight caves for diamonds with mobs you actually have to fight and can't just ultra heal all the damage from is inherently more difficult than the gameplay where you can get diamonds for completely free on the surface, void of any danger. If you made it this far, thanks for listening to my venting. I'll see you in the next one, okay?